what's up guys? My name is Zack and today I am driving a 2013 Nissan Leaf, which is powered by a single electric motor. Now I am super excited to be driving this Nissan Leaf for two reasons. First of all, it has been several years since I've driven a first gen Leaf and I'm excited to be back in the seat, see what's changed, especially since the last time I drove one, it was one of the few EVs you could buy, and now there's so many options, so many fantastic EVs for sale, so it's good to have a little bit of retrospect. But the second reason is the fact that the Nissan Leaf is still on sale today. It was one of the first mass-produced EVs ever, and it's still on sale today, and no one talks about it. No one ever talks about the Leaf, and so I'm excited to share this one with you, and let's actually talk about it. But if you would like to submit your own vehicle, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. But let's get back to that all-electric drivetrain. Well, like I said, the Nissan Leaf was one of the first mass-produced electric cars, especially here in the United States. Now, the Mitsubishi i-MiEV actually beat it by a couple of months, but their production was somewhat short-lived, and the Leaf has since blown it out of the water. On a full charge, as it sits right now, with 50,000 miles 11 years later, it will only go 49 miles. On a full charge, 49 miles. Not great. And that is something that you are going to have to worry about as the Leafs and as electric cars get older. Imagine your gasoline car's gas tank just shrinking. Now, you can, of course, replace the battery, and that will get you back up to around 100 miles of range, but it's one of the realities you'll have to live with. Now, the owner only uses this car for around town. He has several cars, and so range isn't an issue, and he absolutely loves this car because of that. Now, 2013 does have an eco mode, which drastically changes how the car drives, so let's talk about what it's like to drive the Nissan Leaf. Well, in eco mode, as the owner described it, it's like driving through quicksand. You put your pedal all the way down, and I think paint drying would be just a little bit quicker. However, in eco mode, I was able to squeeze 3 extra miles out of the range, so I got 52 miles of range, as opposed to the sporty 49. However, once you take it out of eco mode, it actually will, even 11 years later, chuck you back in your seat a little bit. It is a front-wheel drive setup, single motor, and it's, dare I say, fun? It's not fun, so that's always good to see. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, much like a Honda Civic of the same era, I have 2 different gauge clusters. So up at the very top, I have my speed, time, and temperature. And then down below, I have interesting metrics like my charge, my battery temperature, and a little screen giving me percentage and my odometers and things like that. Really, really cool to see all of that info right there. On the steering wheel, on the left, we have our phone options, volume, skip, track, and source, and off to the right we have our cruise control options and that eco button that will calm the car down and get you more range. Off to the left we have a climate control vent, our pages and trip button, as well as gauge dimmer switch. Then we have our charge timer, so you can set the vehicle to charge at a certain time, so it'll be freshly charged as soon as you come out in the morning. We have our auto and locking plug, our plug opening, heated steering wheel, and traction control off. Moving on to the door, we have the latch to get in and out, power mirrors, and power windows. This part of the car has not aged as gracefully as time has gone on. Moving into the center, we have 2 climate control vents and a hazard switch. And then we have a little infotainment system. So 2013 is kind of a little early to have something like this. However, we do have physical buttons for like map, voice, and status, and CD, and aux, and volume, and power. And we have a button for our 0 emission, which just brings you to the home screen for some reason. And we have a backup camera that is really optimistic about your ability to take flight, as shown with the backup lines. I don't know where it thinks you're going, but doesn't think you need roads. Down below, we have our heat and AC options. Very nice to see that. Very simple layout, and I like the blue lighting that goes along with it. And we have auto, which is nice, which will sort of keep the most battery range it physically can while also trying to heat or cool you. And then down into the center, we have plugins for the aux as well as USB, our heated seats, and cup holders. So we'll do a big friggin' bottle test for the first time in a first gen Leaf, but as you could probably tell right off the bat, it fails. Then we have the shifter, and I would be shocked if Nissan didn't buy these shifters from the Toyota Prius. It is the same pattern, same mechanism, and feels identical. Although I don't have any hard evidence, if I were a betting man, I would bet that this is a Prius shifter through and through. Down below, we have a little extra cubby, a center console, and the seats. The seats are a little hard. They are this sort of cheaper cloth, not very luxurious. However, that wasn't the goal of the Nissan Leaf. The Nissan Leaf was meant to be efficient, and so seat material doesn't really work with that. However, speaking of seats, the Leaf is a 4-door, so let's go hop in the back and do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2013 Nissan Leaf, and a few things I want to touch on. First of all, I'm not super comfortable. The seats are a little bit hard. My knees are hitting the seat in front of me. My head's coming decently close to the ceiling. However, the floor is a little bit higher back here because of the battery pack, and you could take all of your friends around in the back of your vehicle powered by electricity, which was a pretty big novelty for 2013. The other big EVs on the market were the iMeave, which was smaller than this, and the Tesla Roadster, which was a 2-door. There was also the Tesla Model S, but if you were looking at the Leaf, you weren't going to pay the money for a Model S anyway, so kind of cool to see all of that. Another interesting thing is that I do have rear heated seats, a very nice option, but it is powered by a button on the side of the front passenger seat. I've never seen the button in this location. Kind of an interesting little quirk. Let's hop out and take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space. Right around the back of the Nissan Leaf, little handle here, pop it up like that, and you do get actually tons of trunk room. Although there are batteries in here, it doesn't really compromise the trunk, and I would say this is definitely more trunk space than the Nissan Versa, which Nissan, of course, was also making at the time in hatchback form. So nothing really too crazy to write home about or brag about back here. I don't have anything too interesting, but there is the rear cargo space of a 2013 Nissan Leaf. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I've always had sort of a soft spot of the Nissan Leaf when it comes to the looks. I think it's tremendously ugly, but there are reasons why it is ugly. It's supposed to be very aerodynamic to, again, help out with that electric range, but there's just something reassuring about seeing a car so hopelessly ugly that you just kind of want to coddle it and hug it, you know? I mean, at least the car's got a great personality. Or something. Honestly, with the eco mode, it's a little bit bipolar, so I don't even know if it's got a good personality, but hey, it's neat, it's here, and this is what the Nissan Leaf looks like. However, with all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving the Nissan Leaf? Well, this is the reality of electric cars as they're going to age. 50 miles is the absolute most I can ask of this vehicle, and that is a little bit disheartening. However, you can find these for very cheap. Even new Nissan Leafs you can find for very, very affordable prices that have way better range. And I always tell people, if you're looking to get into an electric car, you don't want to spend an arm and a leg, you want something simple for around town, Nissan Leaf was a great answer back in the early 2010s and is still a great answer here today in 2024. However, I do want to take just a second to talk about a little bit of retrospect and the history of electric cars. I say one of the first mass-produced electric cars. However, electric cars have been around for well over a century. Back in the turn of the century, when steam engines, gasoline engines, and electric vehicles were all together, there was sort of a rat race of what technology was going to prevail. And as we see here today, for the last century, the gasoline engine has been the motor of choice for automakers. But there were electric cars back in the early 1900s. Ferdinand Porsche, who later started the Porsche brand, got his start with electric motors. So all of the cool Porsches, you like the old 993s, you like the 997, you like the old 930s, well, you have electric vehicles to thank for that. Throughout the 1900s, there were other electric cars that were around. There was the little city car, which up until this Nissan Leaf was actually the most mass-produced electric car. They made about, I think, 4,000 of them, if I remember correctly. But they didn't sell very well for obvious reasons. They're shaped like a cheese wedge, they're not very spacious, and they only had a couple miles of range. Then, in the late 90s, GM put out the GM EV1. And that's a more famous story because it was a ready-for-market, over 100-mile range electric car when nothing else on the market could even come close. It's famous because GM would only lease those vehicles, and at the end of the leasing terms, they crushed them without really giving a reason. There's a whole documentary about it, Who Killed the Electric Car. It's one of my favorite movies ever made. Please go check it out. Great, great movie. And so electric cars have always kind of came and went, but in the late 2000s, there was a push yet again for electric cars, but this time it stuck with not only the Tesla Roadster coming to the market, but the mass-produced Mitsubishi i-MiEV and the Nissan Leaf. And this really did kickstart a trend that we're still seeing here today. Every passing day, more and more automakers are bringing out new EVs. Kia just brought out their EV9. I just drove the new Blazer and Equinox EVs. Mazda had a shot with the MX-30. Look at this. This is a prototype Jeep Wagoneer EV that should come to market somewhat soon. EVs are all the rage right now, or at least that's what automakers are bringing to the table. And it was kind of started, at least the modern trend, with this car. And so that is why I was excited to drive the Leaf. Not only is it a good little city car for anyone looking for quick and easy transportation, but it's an important stepping stone into a story that's still being written here today. So thank you, Nissan Leaf, for being that important stepping stone and still being a fantastic offering 13 years after your introduction. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Jeff for letting me take out his Nissan Leaf. We're filming a couple of his vehicles here today. Jeff has been absolutely wonderful to work with. Very, very gracious host, and I am thankful for all that he's done for me and the channel. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.